I've always wanted to make one of these videos where I talk about my experiences growing up, even if it's from when I was a kid to teenager, early 20s, and now going into my 30s. And I have been through a lot of hardships, a lot of losses, and some wins as well. So I wanted to, just talk about them, not to make you feel sorry for me, but to also find, people who have been through the same thing as I have, and maybe to basically to get people to talk more, because I feel talking has been my therapy, for getting through all of what I've been through, basically. So I guess we can get into the obvious one, which is my cleft. You can see it, you can hear it. As a kid, it was something that I was very aware of early, and yeah, I didn't really like myself. I used to hate the way I looked, the way I spoke, and I guess the bullying, especially in secondary school, didn't help that much either. And I was a very, very, kid with low confidence. Just didn't really want to be at school. I used to try and bunk school all the time, bunk my lessons. Bullying was relentless at times. It was just mainly one person, but every time I used to see him, he used to try and do something or say something. But I think he was in like year 10, I was in like year 7, so I only had to put up with him for like 2 years or so, and then after that it was pretty plain sailing after that. But the effects of obviously being bullied just were still there. I wasn't very talkative. I used to try and hide away and stuff like that. And then being honest, it still affects me now a little bit, but I've learned to cope with it a lot better. So, and then going on to my teenage years, still very someone I had low confidence, didn't really have the confidence to talk to any girls either. I didn't get in any relationships, or didn't really want to find a girlfriend because I didn't have the confidence to. So going on to college, I studied horticulture for 3 years. The first year, I would say the first year of college was when things started to take a turn for the worse, because I think it was like halfway through the first year. I don't want to say too much because it is quite a personal thing, but basically my dad was accused of something that he didn't do, and then basically that led to him going to prison. This was in year 2, but he went to prison in my second year of college. But that whole finding that out in the first year, and then going on to the second year, and then I think it was around Christmas time. My mum gathers, all the brothers around, and then, you get the news that you don't really expect, and she has cancer, and it's terminal. And I remember thinking, to be fair, I didn't even know what to think, because that's something that I didn't think I'd had to experience. Like, you know, like all of a sudden, everything's sort of just perfect, and then the next minute, your whole world just flips upside down. So it was a genuine struggle to try and come to terms with what was going to happen, and and there was a thought, well, and there was a thought going through my mind where the thought that was going through my mind, that I would, be without my mum and dad within the space of a year, and then, I just broke down into tears, because I just didn't know what to. I just didn't expect that to happen, because I guess no one expects, that to happen. So, I think that was when I started. That's when I started to care less about college. I didn't really focus on my coursework. And then my grades were slowly starting to fade, and then, well, luckily I passed the first year. I got a distinction. Second year, I did get a merit, but just through the skin of my teeth. And then the third year, I had to go to away for uni, and that was also a tough time, because it was a place where I've never been, completely new people, and obviously I'm away from my mum as well, who's also dying of cancer. So, and she wanted me to go, and I didn't really want to go at first, but she said something like, I still have to go and live my life, so that's what I did. And then it came around Christmas time. No, I think it was around January time, around the end of January, and I came home for the weekend to see some of my friends. I think it was a Saturday morning. I was hanging out with my friends, and my mum was in the hospice, and I get a call from my brother, and basically she's obviously taken a turn, and for the worst, and basically she's not got long to live. So obviously I'm thinking, holy shit, like, I don't know what to think. Obviously I go to the hospice, see mum, and then I think around, I don't know, I think it was a Friday she passed, I think it was. Yes, obviously I'm there the whole week with mum, obviously with brothers as well. And yeah, it was really, really tough time. So, and then obviously I'm in the waiting room, and then hearing that, mother's passed away, and then you're just hit with this feeling of nothing. Like, you don't feel anything, you don't, it's kind of a weird feeling to explain, but having to go home on my own and just thinking my own thoughts, like, I didn't even know what to think, and I didn't even know how to feel either. So, I've never felt anything like this before in my life, and I really didn't think I'd have to feel anything like it before. So, and it, and sometimes I still get the same feeling of nothingness. It's like a piece of you sort of just been ripped out, and like, you're never gonna get that back. And it's like, it's been what, like 10 years now since she's passed, and You do sort of learn to live with it, but it's never the same after that. So yeah, that was a real hard hitting experience for me, and I'm very lucky to have a large family, friends that I can go to talk to, and obviously I know others don't get that help, so that's why I want to make these videos just talking about, like I said, talking has been my therapy, so hopefully me talking about my experiences help someone else. So the January goes by. Obviously the funeral was just, again, I didn't really know how to feel. Obviously cried like you should, and then obviously around this time dad's in prison, and I don't see my dad for a good, not good, but well, I'm without dad for about 6 years or so. Having to, was it, when this was all happening, I was 19 at the time, so I'm sort of going into being a man, but not at the same time. I'm having to learn by myself pretty much, and that's kind of hard to navigate. So that was kind of hard to sort of navigate through life without mum and dad at the same time. And obviously, by the time dad comes out of prison, I'm like 26, I think. No, I think he got let out early, so I was 24 actually. But that's definitely something that I would never thought I would have to experience ever. And I wonder if anyone else has had like a similar experience. Maybe please let me know in the comments below. Um, and then obviously so mum passed away 2016, and then I get married for that, obviously because I was living with mum for a little while, and then obviously I had to go find my own place, so I did. And then I'm just like thinking, like, what do I do? I actually get my first job at 19 as well. I got my first retail job. Just thinking, like, trying to sort of like navigate life a little bit, and I really didn't know where I wanted to go, what I really, really wanted to do. And I sort of was just floating through life for a couple of days, for about a year or so, and then I was just very lazy, low on confidence, like I said, didn't know where I was going. So I thought I really need to do something about that. So I actually started to run for a little bit. I went to this like running group, and then I actually started to enjoy it, and I felt it was it cleared my mind a lot. You know, Obviously I'm very lucky to live near a seafront, so looking at the nice views in the morning was definitely quite nice to see, and I felt a lot better. Like I said, my mind was a lot clearer. So I thought, okay, why not try this out more? So obviously I run for a mile, 5 miles, and then eventually that catches on. You know, I do a half marathon, and this is something that I never thought I would do ever. And I go on to do my first marathon in 2018, which was like a surreal experience. Like, completing a marathon is like nothing I've ever felt before, and it gave me a sense of, you know, completion. Like, I can actually do something, you know. And so, yeah, and that's where also my fitness journey started. I started going to the gym, and that helps me with my confidence, and then helps you build like a structure in my life, and that helps you build discipline. And then, yeah, I go and do a second marathon, which is crazy. I'm actually changing the way I think, the way I even think about myself. So, and that's why I started this channel, because I've always wanted to do YouTube. You know, watching, you know, the big YouTubers like PewDiePie, KSI, Sidemen. I guess in the past couple of months or so, I've actually started to really put some effort into making content. You know, actually plucked up the courage to actually talk in front of a camera. Because when I first started this 3 years ago, I couldn't even set the camera up, let alone speak to the camera. And that's something that I've gotten better at the more and more I do it. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey so far, and I'm happy with where I'm going with it at the moment. You know, I'm still currently working in retail part-time, but I do want to make this my full-time job. So yeah, those have been some of my experiences. Let me know if you've also been through something similar. I'll be interested to know. But yeah, no, if you like this video, please leave a like or even subscribe if you want more. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.